eyes sag, then shrivel, the mouth exhales as if forever. But nails keep growing, the chin sprouts stubble flecks of light, teeth protrude, the tongue coarsens, sour food rots in the gut, bloating, excrement leaks out as if in protest. All her love forever. She lays him down carefully on his side of the bed where he usually sleeps, on his right side, knees bent, chest, cheek resting upon a pillow. She squeezes in beside him, in between him and the close edge of the bed, her stomach snug against the small of his back. Her thighs scrunch in under his. With the shorter reach of her legs, her feet wrap around as if grasping his shins, as if never to let go. She slips her right arm crooked under his neck, her left hand in a fist pressed into his chest, her chin hooking into his shoulder. Her moist breath curls about his ear, a salt fragrance. Her heart beats like a small bird, the warmth of her skin fresh and tingling. Under moonlight, her long, loose hair shimmers like a shawl enveloping them. It is as if all her love forever could just bring him back to life. I'm going to end with the last poem in my manuscript. It's entitled A Soldier Returns. I imagine the old lane littered with rubble, the gate to our courtyard torn down for firewood, the plum trees shorn of leaves, the walls of the houses inside still standing, but with their roofs caved in, windows broken, front steps weathered and rotting, suggesting that neighbors have escaped or are dead. There was a small child working her way up a mound of bricks near the well. She must be my daughter, wide-eyed and squealing, now able to run about with the chickens as fast as her stout legs can carry her, her braided pigtails trailing like butterflies fluttering this way and that. My mother, head covered by her wide-brimmed hat, squats in her garden, eyebrows knitted, intent on plucking weeds from among the chives. She is lost in her humming, a village song that young wives, their bellies pregnant, their hearts full of hope, would chant at harvest time. I also hear the familiar clacking of the loom from just inside the shadows of the doorway, its harnesses moving up and down, a steady tattoo as if in meditation, to steal away any fear or sorrow, the daily skirmishes beyond these broken walls, even as death's hush grows ever closer. Her senses alert, the weaver gets up and steps out onto the threshold. She is thinner than ever, chopstick erect, wearing the same clothes she wore the day I left. Out of curiosity, she peers about, her eyes still adjusting to the light, one bare foot rubbing the ankle of the other. From her sad smile, I know that she has not remarried. All they have now are each other, two widows and a carefree girl. In unison, they raise their eyes, attracted by the honking of wild geese in formation flying south, ragged lines across a sun-drenched sky. Thank you.
Now we'll have the poet's critical friend to comment these poems and they might give some constructive suggestions or criticism.
Shan. Okay, I'm going to test this newly learned pronunciation today. I've been reading it the way it's written in English. Okay, I'm just going to read this paper, and I try to make the PowerPoint as simple as possible and the text as simple as possible. So the title of my talk is Contemplative Space in Wing-Tek Lung's Nanjing Poems. Wing-Tek Lung was propelled into writing his first poem about the Nanjing Massacre of 1937 after reading Iris Chang's The Rape of Nanking in 1997. This first poem is titled Nanjing, December 1937, and it was published in the September 2002 issue of Poetry magazine, shown here in the middle of the slide, but apparently you can't see that. The book shown to the right of the poem is the single most useful study of the Nanjing Massacre that I have read, which means that I, as a person who does not read Japanese or Chinese and reads only English language texts, so this was very helpful to me. Takashi Yoshida is a US-based Japanese historian who has tried to chronicle, as even-handedly as possible, changes in the public discussion of the Nanjing Massacre in Japan, China, and the US during the last 6 decades of the 20th century. Yoshida's study is based mainly on newspaper articles published in the 3 countries. Although he gives a detailed account of the factual errors that led the Japanese publisher to cancel its plans for issuing a translation of Chang's book, and includes an explanation of the correspondence between Chang and the publisher in which she refused to make all the corrections or changes they suggested, Yoshida does credit the rape of Nanking as marking a turning point in studies of the event. He writes, whereas Chang's book itself left much to be desired, the ensuing flowering of Nanjing scholarship in America would never have taken place without it. I have borrowed the title of Yoshida's book for the introduction to my talk, since I want to emphasize not only that Lum's Nanjing series is a work in progress, or that it is based on a deep and broad reading of many of the key English language histories and oral histories examined by Yoshida in the period from 1971 through the present, but also because of Yoshida's central point that domestic and international awareness of the massacre has undergone continuous redefinition and reinterpretation in Japan, China, and the United States. And in fact, it was only after the early 1980s that Nanjing attained a prominent position in the history and memory of the Asia-Pacific War. Lum's poems on the massacre are part of this latest phase of continuous redefinition and reinterpretation. And more particularly, they contribute to historical studies of Nanjing in ways that might be mistakenly dismissed outright as fictive and therefore irrelevant to historical inquiry. As I hope to demonstrate today, the Nanjing poems do not merely react to the making of the rape of Nanking performed by others, they produce that making as well. What then is this making that occurs in Lum's Nanjing poems? At the left of the slide is a portion of his first poem just mentioned. I will use it to illustrate a provisional answer to the question. When reading a Nanjing atrocity poem rendered as one of Lum's, let me go back. When reading a Nanjing atrocity photo rendered as one of Lum's poems, we perceive the image slowly, word by word, line by line, like a low-tech scanner on a fixed path, able to frame just one small portion of the image surface at any given moment. An image rendered verbally in the manner of this poem requires us to spend time with it. If such an atrocity photo poem is read attentively, it creates contemplative space. Here are 2 quotations from Susan Sontag's regarding the pain of others, in which she describes a growing inability to respond to images of atrocity in a culture where image hypersaturation and disengaged spectatorship are the norm. Photographs, and I'm reading from the left, photographs are circulated so diversely. There is no way to guarantee reverential conditions in which to look at these pictures and be fully responsive to them. Indeed, apart from the settings where patriotic deference to leaders is exercised, there seems to be no way to guarantee contemplative or inhibiting space for anything now. And on the right, could one be mobilized actively to oppose war by an image or a group of images? A narrative seems likely to be more effective than an image. Partly it is a question of the length of time one is obliged to look, to feel. It is my contention that by performing a slow scan of the pain of others, the Nanjing poems create contemplative spaces that oblige readers to look at and feel the meaning of the human